You are staring at someone's vacation right now. Their perfect breakfast, their flawless skin, their dream relationship, and you feel something hollow open up inside your chest. You tell yourself it's nothing, just a moment of weakness. But here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. That hollow feeling is the entire point. Someone, somewhere, is making money from that exact sensation, and they've been perfecting the technique for almost a century. Let me tell you a story about how we got here. But first, you need to understand something fundamental about the world you're living in. Every single platform you touch, every app you open, every endless scroll through curated lives, it's all built on a discovery made in a laboratory in the 1930s. A discovery about rats. About hunger. About what happens when you give a creature just enough to keep pulling the lever, but never enough to feel satisfied. The year was 1933. A psychologist named B.F. Skinner was running experiments at Harvard. He put rats in boxes, simple boxes with a lever and a food dispenser. When the rat pressed the lever, food appeared. Basic stuff. But then Skinner did something interesting. He changed the rules. Sometimes the lever gave food. Sometimes it didn't. Random. Unpredictable. And the rats went absolutely insane for it. They pressed that lever obsessively, compulsively, far more than the rats who got food every single time. The uncertainty made them hungry in a way that certainty never could. Skinner called it variable ratio reinforcement. The rest of us call it every slot machine in Las Vegas. Every gotcha game. Every time you pull down to refresh your feed, hoping, just hoping, that this time there'll be something good, something that makes you feel less alone, less invisible, less like you're falling behind in a race you never agreed to run. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back further, back to when they first figured out how to manufacture wanting itself. It's 1929. The stock market has just collapsed. The Great Depression is beginning to eat America alive. Factories are running at half capacity because people have stopped buying things. Not because they don't want things, but because wanting isn't enough anymore. You need money to buy things, and nobody has any money. The system is choking on its own success. It had learned to produce more than anyone had ever produced in human history. But production means nothing if people won't consume. Enter Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud, the man who would take his uncle's theories about the unconscious mind and weaponize them for commerce. Bernays understood something that most advertisers of his era didn't. You can't sell people things by telling them the product is good. That's too logical, too rational. People aren't rational. They're emotional. They're insecure. They're terrified of being left behind, of being judged, of being unloved. So Bernays didn't sell products. He sold feelings. He sold identity. He sold the solution to anxieties that his campaigns had created in the first place. Here's a famous example. In the 1920s, women didn't smoke cigarettes in public. It was considered unladylike, vulgar. The tobacco companies were losing half their potential market, so Bernays staged a protest. He hired a group of young women to march in the New York City Easter Parade, and at a prearranged signal, they all pulled out cigarettes and lit them. He'd tipped off the press beforehand, told them to watch for the torches of freedom. The story went national. Smoking wasn't about nicotine anymore. It was about liberation, independence, rebellion against patriarchy. The women who bought cigarettes after that weren't buying tobacco. They were buying the feeling of being free, of being modern, of being the kind of woman who didn't follow the old rules. Bernays did this over and over. He convinced Americans that they needed bacon for breakfast by getting doctors to endorse it. He made green an acceptable fashion color by throwing elaborate green-themed parties for high society. He turned consumption into identity. And it worked. It worked so well that by the time World War II ended, America had become a machine designed for one purpose: turning insecurity into profit. The 1950s were the golden age of this new science. The suburbs were spreading. Television was entering every home, and advertisers had a captive audience every single night. They studied housewives. They studied children. They figured out exactly which emotional buttons to press. The commercials from that era, if you go back and watch them, they're not about the products at all. They're about fear. Fear that your neighbors are judging you. Fear that your husband will leave you if your floors aren't shiny enough. Fear that your children will be social outcasts if they don't have the right toys. The technique was simple. Show someone a perfect life, a perfect kitchen, a perfect family, a perfect moment of happiness. Then show them the product that supposedly makes that perfection possible. The viewer's brain does the rest. It sees the gap between their life and the perfect life, and it feels that gap as pain, as inadequacy, as a problem that needs solving. And the only solution offered is to buy. But here's what nobody told you. That gap is permanent, unfillable, because the moment you buy the thing, the moment you acquire the product that was supposed to make you happy, the commercial changes. The goalposts move. Now there's a new perfect life, a new standard, a new thing you're missing. This is the machine. This is how it works. Create dissatisfaction. Offer a solution. Deliver temporary relief. Create new dissatisfaction. Repeat forever. For decades, this machine ran on television and magazines and billboards. It was powerful. It was effective. But it had limitations. You could turn off the TV. You could throw away the magazine. You could look away from the billboard. There were gaps in the coverage, moments when you could exist without being sold to. Then came the internet, and everything changed. The early internet, back in the 1990s and early 2000s, it wasn't built for advertising. It was built by academics and hobbyists and weird little communities of people who just wanted to share information and talk to each other. The business model was an afterthought. Some sites ran banner ads. Some asked for donations. Some didn't monetize at all. But that couldn't last. Because the internet was expensive to run. Servers cost money. Bandwidth cost money. And investors wanted returns. So the people running these platforms had a problem. How do you make money from a service that people expect to be free? The answer came from the same place it always comes from: psychology, behavioral science, the study of what makes people tick. Around 2006, 2007, the social media platforms started hiring neuroscientists, experts in dopamine, experts in addiction. They studied gambling. They studied video games. They studied every single mechanism that had ever been used to keep people hooked on something, and they built all of it into the feed. The infinite scroll. That wasn't an accident. That was designed. When you reach the bottom of a page and it just loads more content automatically, that's eliminating the natural stopping point. The moment where you might decide to do something else. The notification badge, that little red dot, that's variable ratio reinforcement. Sometimes it's something important, sometimes it's garbage, but you have to check, you have to know. The uncertainty makes it irresistible. The like counter, the heart, the thumbs up, that's operant conditioning. You post something, you get a little hit of validation, so you post again and again, always chasing that feeling, that momentary sense that you matter, that someone sees you. But here's the really insidious part, the thing that makes this different from every manipulation that came before it. The platforms aren't selling you products anymore. They're selling you your attention is the product, your data is the product, your behavior, your preferences, your insecurities, your hopes, your fears. All of it is being packaged and sold to advertisers who want to influence you. Every single thing you do on these platforms is being tracked, analyzed, and fed into algorithms designed to keep you scrolling just a little bit longer. Because the longer you scroll, the more ads you see. And the more ads you see, the more money they make. So the platform doesn't want you to be happy. Happy people log off. Happy people go outside. Happy people don't need the constant stream of validation and distraction. The platform needs you to be just uncomfortable enough to keep searching for something. Just insecure enough to keep comparing yourself to others. Just lonely enough to keep reaching for your phone. The engineers who built these systems, many of them have spoken out about this. They've said openly that they don't let their own children use these platforms. They know what they built. They know it's designed to be addictive. They know it's designed to exploit the weakest parts of human psychology. One former executive from Facebook said it explicitly. He said they knew they were creating something that exploited a vulnerability in human psychology. He said he felt tremendous guilt about it, and then he said that he doesn't use social media anymore. Think about that for a second. The people who built the machine won't touch it themselves. That should tell you everything you need to know. But let's get specific about how this works in your actual life. Because the abstract theory is one thing, the daily reality is another. You wake up in the morning. Before you even get out of bed, you check your phone. This has become automatic, instinctive. You're not even thinking about it. You're just reaching for it. And the moment you open that first app, the algorithm goes to work. It knows what you like. It knows what makes you angry. It knows what makes you sad. It knows what makes you feel inadequate. And it shows you exactly the mix of content that will keep you engaged, not happy. Engaged. There's a difference. Maybe it shows you a friend who's traveling somewhere beautiful, someone whose life looks effortlessly perfect. You feel that little twist in your stomach, that quiet voice that says, you're falling behind. You should be doing more, being more, having more. Or maybe it shows you something enraging, some political post that makes your blood boil, some injustice that demands your attention. You feel compelled to respond, to argue, to correct. And now, you're in the comments section, fighting with strangers, feeling your cortisol levels spike, and absolutely convinced that this matters, that this is important. The algorithm doesn't care which emotion it triggers. Envy, rage, lust, inadequacy, righteousness, fear. It's all the same to the machine. Because all of these emotions have one thing in common. They keep you scrolling. Hours pass. You've seen hundreds of posts, thousands of images, and at the end of it, you feel exhausted, drained. You've consumed so much, yet you feel emptier than when you started. You can't quite remember what you saw. It's all blurred together into a vague sense of anxiety and overstimulation. This is not an accident. This is the desired outcome. Because when you feel empty, you come back. When you feel anxious, you seek comfort in the familiar motion of scrolling. When you feel like you're missing something, you check again, and again, and again. The average person now touches their phone over 2,000 times a day. 2,000. Think about that number. That's not communication. That's not productivity. That's compulsion. That's addiction. And the saddest part? You know this. Everyone knows this. We all understand, on some level, that we're being manipulated, that we're giving away our time, our attention, our mental health in exchange for nothing of real value. But we keep doing it anyway, because the machine is designed to be stronger than your willpower, stronger than your intentions, stronger than your understanding of what it's doing to you. Now let's talk about what all of this is doing to society as a whole. Because individual suffering is one thing, collective madness is another. The business model of engagement-based platforms has created an incentive structure that rewards the worst of human nature. Outrage spreads faster than nuance. Lies spread faster than truth. Extremism is more engaging than moderation. So, that's what gets amplified. That's what the algorithm promotes. We're watching, in real time, as our information ecosystem is warped by profit motives. The most divisive voices get the biggest audiences. The most extreme positions get the most engagement. The people trying to have reasonable, complex conversations get drowned out by the people screaming. And none of this is organic. None of this is natural human behavior. It's engineered. It's the predictable outcome of building a system that makes money from conflict and confusion. The platforms will tell you they're just giving people what they want, that they're neutral, that they're just reflecting human nature. But that's a lie. They're not reflecting anything. They're shaping. They're manipulating. They're running the largest psychological experiment in human history, without consent, without oversight, and without any concern for the consequences. The consequences are everywhere. Depression rates among teenagers have skyrocketed since 2010. Suicide rates are climbing. Attention spans are collapsing. The ability to focus on difficult tasks, to sit with uncomfortable thoughts, to be alone without distraction, all of these human capacities are atrophying. We're raising a generation that has never known a world without this machine. Kids who learn to seek validation from strangers before they learn to validate themselves. Kids who measure their worth in likes and followers. Kids who feel physical anxiety when separated from their phones. And it's not their fault. How could it be? They're up against billions of dollars of research and development, all aimed at one goal, to make the product as addictive as possible. So what do? How do you fight a machine this powerful, this pervasive, this embedded into the fabric of modern life? The answer is going to sound too simple, too radical, too difficult to actually implement. But it's the only answer that works. You have to starve the machine. You have to stop feeding it. Not forever, not completely, but consciously, deliberately, with full awareness of what you're doing and why. Here's what that looks like in practice. You set boundaries, real boundaries, not "I should probably use my phone less" boundaries. Actual rules that you enforce. No phone for the first hour after waking up. No phone after 9 p.m. No social media on weekends. Delete the apps. Not just logging out. Delete them. Make it inconvenient to access. Add friction to the process. You replace the compulsion with something else. Because you can't just stop. You have to fill the void with something real. Books. Long walks. Conversations with people in the same room. Boredom. Actual, genuine boredom. The kind where you just sit and think and let your mind wander. You rediscover the feeling of wanting something without immediately satisfying that want. You practice delayed gratification. You let yourself feel uncomfortable without reaching for the dopamine button. This sounds simple. It's not, because you're fighting against every instinct these platforms have programmed into you. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel like you're missing out. You're going to feel the pull, constantly, to just check one more time. But here's what happens when you push through that. When you actually disconnect for long enough, something extraordinary occurs. You start to remember who you were before the feeds, before the likes, before the endless comparison to other people's highlight reels. You remember what it feels like to do something without documenting it, to have an experience without thinking about how it will look to an audience, to be bored and let that boredom lead you somewhere unexpected. Your attention span comes back, not immediately, but gradually. You find you can read a book again without checking your phone every 5 minutes. You can watch a movie without also scrolling. You can have a conversation without that part of your brain wondering what's happening online. And most importantly, you start to see the machine for what it is. When you step away from it, even briefly, you can see the strings, the manipulation, the way it was designed to make you feel inadequate, incomplete, always hungry for more. The people who run these platforms, they're not evil. They're not sitting in dark rooms plotting your destruction. They're just optimizing for engagement, for growth, for profit. And the most profitable thing they've ever discovered is human insecurity, the fear of being left behind, the desperate need to be seen, to be validated, to matter. They found the engine that runs on depression, and they built an entire economy around it. But you can opt out. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to remember that you're more than your feed, more than your posts, more than the carefully curated version of yourself you present to the algorithm. You're a human being with depth and complexity and contradictions. You contain multitudes that can't be captured in a grid of photos. You have thoughts that take longer than 280 characters to express. You have a life that exists in 3 dimensions, not just the 2 dimensions of a screen. The highlight reel will always be there. It will always be showing you someone else's perfect moment, someone else's dream life, and it will always be designed to make you feel like you're falling short. But the secret is this: their highlight reel is a lie. Everyone's highlight reel is a lie, because life isn't highlights. Life is the boring parts, the difficult parts, the parts where nothing's happening, the parts where you're just existing moment to moment without anyone watching, and those parts are real. Those parts are yours. Those parts can't be monetized. So that's where freedom lives, in the ordinary, in the undocumented, in the moments you don't share because they're too small, too quiet, too personal to translate into content. Your depression might be their business model, but your healing isn't profitable. Your genuine connection to other human beings isn't profitable. Your ability to be present, right here, right now, without mediation or documentation or validation from strangers, that's not profitable. And that's exactly why it's worth protecting. The machine will still be there tomorrow. It's not going anywhere. The platforms will keep optimizing. The algorithms will keep learning. The manipulation will keep getting more sophisticated. But you don't have to participate. Not as much. Not as mindlessly. Not at the cost of your mental health and your attention and your ability to exist without constant stimulation. You have a choice. It doesn't feel like a choice, because the machine is designed to make opting out seem impossible. But it's there, every single day. In every moment, you reach for your phone without thinking. The question isn't whether you can disconnect. The question is whether you're willing to sit with the discomfort of being alone with yourself, of not knowing what everyone else is doing, of being okay with missing out. Because that discomfort, that fear of missing out, that's the hook. That's what they're selling. And as long as you keep buying it, they'll keep selling it. Your attention is the last truly scarce resource in the world. Everything else can be manufactured, replicated, distributed at scale. But your attention, your time, your presence, that's finite, that's irreplaceable, that's actually yours. So the real question is, who do you want to give it to?